Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. I'd like to call the regular Caucus meeting of the City of Twinsburg to order. Shannon, would you call the roll?
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mrs. Walker? Present. Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Labby? Here.
All right, presentations, I believe we have none. Items for discussion, I believe there's none. How about audience participation, Shannon?
There is none.
There is none. Okay. Pending legislation, we have Ordinance 88, 2021. This is the ordinance for the temporary budget for 2022 in the amount of $44,948,341.59.
Wow.
We talked about that the last two meetings. Anybody have any discussion on that?
And no, we talked about it in Finance Committee earlier this evening. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to put it through towards council.
Anybody else? All right, next we have Ordinance 89, 2021. This is the ordinance to amend Chapter 147 of the codified ordinance pertaining to employees generally. We talked about this as well. Anybody have any discussion on this? Any further?
No.
Okay. Ordinance 93, 2021. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 1151 of the codified ordinance to allow medical marijuana dispensaries. Again, this was on, we had a first reading last week. Any discussion?
I just wanted to point out that this, if we were to move forward with this will go on the ballot in May and would have to be passed by a majority of the residents.
And we have a public hearing in on January 11th at 6:30 right here in City Hall. Okay, Ordinance 95, 2021. This is an ordinance to make the appropriation to multiple funds, additional revenue, and reduction in expense line items to offset appropriation additions and have a net positive impact on the 2021 appropriations. The reason for the emergency, it is an emergency tonight, is to make the needed changes prior to the year end. Any, Mrs. Bucci-Gross or anybody on council have anything further to say?
Covered in finance.
Okay, next we have Resolution 96, 2021. It's a resolution to enter into an agreement with ODOT for federal funds related to the resurfacing of Ravenna Road from Chamberlain to East Idlewood in 2022. The project amount is $540,000, of which the city will be responsible for 20% or $108,000. Any questions or comments on that?
Amy's coming in.
I would just like to say Amy's going to come up and talk, but this was not scheduled to go till 23, and I'm really happy to 24. Okay, and I'm happy to see that it got moved up 2 years. I know it's been a pretty bone of contention with some residents, and I've heard from residents, and they wondered why that's the only section of Ravenna Road that hasn't been done, and it was pushed out there. So I'm glad that it's coming in. It'll be done next year. Go ahead.
Just so you know, I have been in touch with AMATs after our last funding, our last bid cycle, and their prices are coming in higher. So we do have potential of getting close to 15% more money from AMAT. So
Nice.
we probably will still be matched at an 80-20 split when we're all said and done.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Next, we have Ordinance 97, 2021. This ordinance is for a 3-year extension to the waste management contract for refuge and recycling collection. The reason for the emergency is to provide timely notice per the contract. Any discussion on that?
I'd like to say something. So I was looking over the numbers that are there with waste management, the current, and then the April 1st, 2022, 23, and 24 numbers. I know that when this was agreed upon a couple weeks ago, this is before I came on to council, the understanding was that it was a 244, correct? It's a 244, but these numbers here do not reflect a 244. These numbers here, unless I calculated it wrong, the first year is a 347, and then it's a 44. So currently, the way I came up with that is I looked at the solid waste collection, the solid waste disposable, and the recycling numbers. When I added those together for the current years, we're at 6560. Next year, when I add that, so I didn't look at the average per home because I just looked at the actual cost of the first three. 6560, the next line. Next year would be 6788. The following year would be 7060, and the following year would be 7342. So the first increase of the totals is $2.28, which is actually a 3.7 3.47% increase, not a 2% increase. The next two are spot on at 4%. One was 4.0007%, and one was 3.999999%. So those two are spot on 4%. But it was my understanding that when it was agreed to that we'd move forward on this, and when council agreed to move forward with this, that it was going to be set at a 2.44. Again, this was before my time, but the way compounded interest works is that a little more today ends up being a lot more down the line. So I didn't know if that was just a mistake. I didn't know if that is actually, because 2% next year would put it at 66.91 total, not 67.88. And then down the line, in 2024, it'd actually be 72.36 as opposed to 73.42, which is $1.06 less in total. So I just didn't know if that's a mistake in this, or if it was not 2.44 as opposed to 3.47.
The average home price?
No.
1839.
He's looking at the last page, the column, the table that lists solid waste collection, solid waste disposal, recycling, and average.
So I didn't use the average.
Right.
I just looked at the actual cost of the solid waste collection, the solid waste disposal, and the recycling, which are the actual costs. And when I added those first column up, I came up with $65.60. And when I added up the second column, it was $67.88, which is a $2.28 increase. $2.28 off of $65.60 is 3.47%, not 2%.
Right.
I guess, the average per home is 244, correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
We pay a per home price. Pay a per home price. So the solid waste collection really didn't, I don't know if that varied much at
We
all.
have the houses, it goes up.
A little bit,
So I don't know if there are more houses in the next years than there were in the past.
We've.
Right, so using the average,
We've typically been presented, I
but
believe,
it is different than,
average per home price.
Okay, because this was before I joined on, but when
Who
I,
gives them those numbers, the number of homes here? Has anybody done that? Who's done it?
They calculate the stops.
so how many stops do we have every round?
We had, I want to say 66 something. We adjust, the building department notifies Chris Campbell's office when new homes are put online, and we adjust that number through them on an annual basis as far as the number of homes that are receiving service. And then we do that on an annual basis and pay a per home price. That's how our fees are calculated.
All right, again, I didn't use the average home price. So you're taking basically 18.39 times roughly
It's a
6,600.
roughly
There's your
39
number.
cent increase in year one, which is slightly 2.something%.
1839.
The current to the April 1st, 2022 price.
So 1878 minus
Yeah, I came up with 18.7578.
divided by 18. Yeah, 2.12%.
Right, which, 2% is 18.7578.
Right, so it's 2.12%, okay. But again, you can understand that it seems very odd that the cost of all of those things is 3.47 when the other two are spot on 4%.
We'll verify that, Mr. Pozo. We can verify that number, but I know when I sat down with
Okay.
Chris Campbell's office, I know that they go through the numbers. His department goes through the number.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Like I said,
That was a good catch.
So you want to amend it to say will not exceed 224?
244.
244? Just, so you can throw you can throw you can make a motion to add that the council will approve this under condition that it doesn't exceed the 244 that was mentioned in the outline
During
letter.
negotiations?
Yeah, and that way we have a way to fix it if it's off, and they can check it, and that way, because if we don't vote on it, we have to come back for a special meeting, because we need a contract before the first of the year.
No, we don't.
We don't? Oh, we're in March, right?
March, end of March.
We have to notify, if it's not passing by council, we have to notify them 60 days prior to the termination of their contract and go out to bid. So our contract with Waste Management currently ends March 31st. So we have to notify them
January.
January 31st.
if we're going out to, if we're not renewing. But we would also then have to go out to bid if you're not renewing, so you're crunching that time. It can still be done, but
All I'm saying is you can make a motion and cover yourself and pass it tonight, and if there's a problem, you can fix it.
I don't see an issue. I mean, the agreement was 244, so if you want to.
Well, I'd like to see that in there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like this is 2.14, but that's not 2, but I didn't calculate the rest of it. Did you calculate the rest of it? It was 4.4?
Yeah.
I was gonna make the motion.
You gotta make it during council. We can't make it now, can we?
No, you gotta be under, we have to make a motion to adopt, and we can add it then, during that
Okay, so we'll do
discussion.
it
You
during that
can't do it
discussion.
now.
Yeah, okay.
It's 3.99. 3.99.
Math teacher.
Anybody have,
High school math teacher,
No,
sorry.
good catch. No, good catch.
That's a good call.
anybody anything else? Okay. Next, we have ordinance 98, 2021. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter a collective bargaining agreement with the AFSCME service unit, which is on emergency tonight, to allow for it to be in effect as soon as possible. We talked about this again at the last meeting. Anybody else have any discussion? Ordinance 99, 2021. This ordinance is to establish the annual wage increase for the non-bargaining unit employees in 2022. The increase is 2.5%, which matches the current CBA agreements, and it's also on emergency tonight to be in effect by January 1st. Questions by council? Okay. Ordinance 100, 2021. This ordinance is to incorporate changes to the 2022 salary ordinance as previously discussed. And any questions on that tonight, council? Okay, we have ordinance 101, 2021. This ordinance is to set the rates for 2022 for both the fitness center and the water park. It's on emergency tonight to allow for it to be in effect by January 1st. Any discussion? Yeah.
Jen, can you tell us what the rate increases are? Is it the standard 3%?
And if I could, when we looked at this, a number of years ago, we established the rates with a provision that the director can increase them 3%. The problem is the numbers that were on the books. If somebody went and looked at the 2018 ordinance, for example, they're going to see numbers that have then been increased in 19, 20, and 21. So there was this issue of the numbers that are in the ordinance don't actually reflect the numbers that are being advertised because of the provision that allows Jen to do that. So we'd like to be very clear on this. So the anticipation is that we're going to present this to council every December if there's a change. If there's not a change, the rates will stay the same. But if there's a change, we'll present that ordinance and just trigger that so there's none of that confusion. Obviously, the fitness center has other programs they run for perks and bundling and annual memberships, things like that. She's going to continue to do those, but we wanted to have the actual rates here in one ordinance, and we didn't have fitness center and water park in the same ordinance before. They were in two completely different ordinances. One appeared on the books, one didn't. It was confusing.
Good.
But again, these are only at 3%, right? Increase.
This current one is at 3%.
Okay.
So about 10 years ago, we added an order, or 3%, because they went about 5 years without moving it up at all. And this gave the ability to just move it up.
But we capped the percentage too.
Yes, capped it
Yeah,
at
you
6.
capped the fitness center percentage.
Unless, I mean, the council can vote a higher rate if they need to, but it
Right.
it caps the department at 3.
Gotcha.
All right, any questions, council? Okay, on the miscellaneous, does anybody have any miscellaneous?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, we have several boards and commissions that I don't know that we need to have anymore. Specifically, the Golf Advisory Board. That particular advisory board, I think has kind of changed over the years. I know for a fact that particular board hasn't met recently, and I'm just not sure what value that particular board. And again, that's not disparaging the time and commitment that the members of that board have put in over the years. And I guess I would have the same concerns around Parks and Rec. The Parks and Rec Commission, I think, we have the Friends of Twinsburg Park, just a 503C, that I think probably can do some additional things other than the Parks and Rec Commission. So again, I just wanted to kind of open this up. I don't know that, I just don't know that they're necessary.
I think that the Golf Course Advisory Board grew from originally, when it first opened the golf course, there was a spot for John Gudinski. And then as council added a couple people, then for a while there, we added, I think we were up to like 8 or 9 people on that board, which just, it didn't do anything. The way that they've split the operations, there's nothing with the clubhouse now. And, I agree with Greg. Now, we abolished this board 6 years ago. And a couple of people on that board said, we'll stay on a volunteer basis and have a couple meetings a year, and I guess we never changed it. But we did, when you were on council, when Drew Ramito was still running it, we eliminated this board. They asked if they could stay up. So we were not paying this. It doesn't cost us anything. But I think, we got a lot of meetings to go to. So I'm not sure that that's worthwhile anymore. So I agree with Greg.
If I could just talk about, are you done with that?
Huh?
Yeah, so the Parks and Rec, I think, I went to the last Parks and Rec meeting and had a long, dialogue with Parks and Rec regarding their structure, and they are part of the charter, so it would actually have to come out, it would have to be a charter amendment.
Oh, okay.
I've had the experience to look at from a distance and see how it operates Hudson Friends of Twinsburg Park, and they're the recommending board in the city of Hudson, and there's hundreds of members that advise council, and I've actually seen that in action with a couple of projects that they've had recently, and it's a stronger voice, if you want my opinion, and there's a lot of, and it's very professionally run, so that there's a lot of the board members, along with the members, really provide input to the community on what the community is looking for from a Parks and Rec standpoint. And I mentioned it to our Parks and Rec Commission that, that organization that we have started in Twinsburg, who's I know going to be trying to grow in the upcoming year, would be a great opportunity for them to become involved in that. And we have 5 people on Parks and Rec. Or is it 7? So we have 7 people in Parks and Rec. I just think that there's just a better feel of the pulse of the community by having 100, 200, 300 people part of the organization advising administration on what the needs of Parks and Rec are versus 7 individuals. I did ask them to kind of explore that option, and hopefully they all become part of Friends of Twinsburg Park. And that's something that can eventually evolve. But to get rid of Parks and Rec, it would be a charter amendment to do that.
I was not aware of that. I apologize. One more thing about Golf Advisory Board. I do think that there's value in hearing from the residents and from the golfers. I just don't know that that particular board is serving that purpose at this point.
And again, if you're looking at it, the golf course is part of our Parks and Rec offerings here in the city of Twinsburg. So it could also have a subcommittee in Friends of Twinsburg Park that could be an advising, type or recommending type body through that medium versus a separate board. Because I know a lot of what happens in terms of our golf advisory board. Some years we have all golfers. Some years we have no golfers. Most years we have a mix of people that have never set foot on the course to people that are avid golfers. So it's a kind of a blend of different people on that board.
That's all I have. Thank you.
What about the rest of the council? Anybody have any thoughts on that? I'm okay with the golf advisory board, letting that go.
So is the action that you have to make a resolution to eliminate it, Dave? We talked about this. I thought you did it by resolution, so we'd have to use a resolution.
If we did it by resolution or ordinance, you have to disband it by resolution or ordinance. So we'll pull the originating legislation, take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else under miscellaneous?
I have something. Along those lines, I had talked to Michael Brown last week, and I understand the difference between the committees, but for equity, I was wondering to get the Jedi Committee paid, because I think their worth is incredible. And and he was supposed to reach out to Sarah and Dave. I wonder if he did.
He did. We talked about that. That was something that, we weren't sure what direction. I know most of our boards or commissions get paid $25 a meeting, I believe, in the salary ordinance. That was something that we talked about. We just hadn't talked about that when we established the Jedi Committee. I think really because nobody really knew where it was going to go. It was a new committee. It was just being organized. And I don't disagree with you, but if that's something you want to do, if council wants to do, we can certainly make that amendment if you want to make that amendment on the floor to include them in the list of, I think at the end of the salary ordinance, we have all the committees listed.
So I would bring it up under the salary ordinance?
Correct. And I make a motion to amend that if you want to make that.
Anybody have any
So,
discussion with that?
So what you want to do is to add the Jedi Committee to the salary ordinance under boards and commissions so that they can receive the stipend that the ARB and BZA. So that's a simple motion that we could make, and it is just, you say, I want to make a motion to add the Jedi Committee to the salary ordinance under boards and commissions. May I have a second? So if you would like to do that, or if you'd like somebody else to do that, that's fine. But
No, I think I'd like to do that.
okay, that's the vehicle you would do. You make a motion to get a second.
Well, how many members are on the Jedi?
Are there 7 or 8?
7.
7?
Plus 2
We're
police
talking about
officers.
resident members.
There's
Seven
7
resident-
resident
that-
members. This is, just want to mention that this is the only committee that also has subcommittees. So I don't know, we would probably need clarification. Is it on meetings, paid meetings are both of those, but committee and subcommittee,
They do
but
meet
it's the only one that has
multiple
one.
times per month. So,
So there's probably 2 meetings per resident per month, which is not uncommon. We do that with planning and ARB and BZA. But because of the subcommittees that you saw the schedule, that we worked that out,
Right.
there'll be 3 people, 2 or 3 people in a subcommittee. And, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
And it would just be for the residents. It would,
Right, it's only the residents.
It would just be for the residents.
So you're saying to meet how often is it, or is it as
Meet
needed?
twice a month.
No, the subcommittees.
It would be, well, the subcommittees are once a month, and then they would have a
But
meeting of
there's-
the whole once a month.
But
Oh, I
and
see.
there's
So
3
that is the two
subcommittees.
meetings.
So
Okay, I thought you were saying the whole Jedi's twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
could you make it just for the full Jedi?
Yes, I can do that. You can, if you were going to make it for both, you can say that both the Jedi Committee and subcommittees, you can add the subcommittees. So I make a motion that we add the Jedi Committee and their subcommittees to the salary ordinance under boards and commissions,
So all 7
If
meet,
that's what you'd like to do.
if that's what you'd like to
Or you
do.
could just do the Jedi.
so all 7 meet once a month, and then the other
Dave, I got
three
the
the second
schedule.
month.
Sarah, does that make sense to you?
But all of those people would be on at least one subcommittee.
yeah.
Because there's multiple sub.
Correct.
Yeah, there's like 3 subs.
Every person will have 2 meetings
That's
a
the
month.
Jedi. yes.
Okay, thank you. So each person of the 7, I see, with you.
Or more.
Yes, it
So we're looking
makes,
350 a
So
month.
also, just, I don't want to interrupt, but there are some Jedi Committee members that I believe try to come to all potential subcommittees, or, I mean, are we just
So you
strictly
have-
saying the ones they'd be assigned to, or?
Right.
Okay.
So that would have to be the responsibility of whoever is going to be in charge of this at the Jedi Committee meetings, because they have to turn in on a quarterly basis the attendance so that we can pay the boards and commissions. So I would probably come to a Jedi meeting, explain to everyone what they would have to do to make sure that everything gets paid properly.
But we'd have attendance taken for all the minutes that are at, for both subcommittees and committee meetings.
And so, and this is just something for you guys to discuss. All of these residents were enthusiastic to be part of the committee on a volunteer basis. I don't want to take away any of that do you think there should be a discussion with the Jedi Committee regarding this proposed change?
We
Or-
have people that serve on boards and commissions that volunteer even though it's a paid position.
So
So
what-
that's possible if someone doesn't want to be paid, they just let us know that, we mark it down in the file, and they attend, but they're not paid.
So I did that for, I think it was on Parks and Rec for 6 years. I forget how long, and I mean, it's $25 a meeting. I said, please donate it back to the city, something to be used in Parks and Rec. And at the time, I was doing that dog park fundraiser. So I actually told them to, dog ear my money for that dog park fundraiser. But I think that would be a good idea to all commissions to say, would you like to donate your money back to the city to, I mean, it's an option. I mean, I did it, and again, I don't think anyone is doing that for their money. I mean, I'm certainly not doing city council for the money. I just think that, you know what I mean, it's an option, here's this, or would you like to donate it back to the city, and the city is raising money for, I'm just throwing out ideas, whatever, because like you said, I did it because it made me feel good to give back to the city. I didn't want to get paid, I wanted to give back.
And I guess I'm just referring to overall. I mean, there's a different perception of a committee that gets paid to be there versus, even though it's a nominal amount, I just wonder if we should approach the JEDI committee with this thought versus just amending and doing it.
So what you could do is we wait till the next meeting, have the discussion with Sarah and the group, and you just reissue this. We can bring a salary ordinance back as many times as we want. So we could make that change with a different number in January.
Right.
So
Do that. I
okay.
kind of like that.
Yeah, I thought it too.
Yeah,
Okay? Or,
good idea.
That money for something.
okay, you done with that conversation? Anybody else on miscellaneous? Okay, if we're done with that, I have one thing. I would be making a motion in the regular meeting to approve the 2022 bid list. These items have gone through Capital Improvements Board, Finance, and are included in the temporary budget that we'll be voting on tonight. Some of the infrastructure projects are Ravenna Road resurfacing, East Ottawa to Glenwood, White Oaks, Birchwood reconstruction and resurfacing, Cannon Road CMP storm replacement, Dorridge Drive improvements, which is a rebid. As we all know, we rejected the bids and we're going to be rebidding it. And then the 2022 road striping program and the 2022 road program with sidewalks, and it will include the fitness center parking lot. Out of this, the purchases will be the rotary mower, rough mower for the golf course, and of course, again, the fitness center parking lot. So, anybody have any questions on that? If you do, Amy's here to talk about it, but that's your bid list. You good? Okay. Good. Okay, if nobody has anything else, we will adjourn the caucus in